In today's video, I'm sharing some rustic farmhouse Thanksgiving or fall DIY tablescapes. Welcome to CreArtive by Nature DIY and Decor. My name is Donna. So I have this beautiful green ticking fabric. I received it from burlapfabric.com. I'm going to have the link for you down in the description box. I wanted to make a tablecloth, so I put it in the wash and in the dryer because I needed to pre-shrink it. Next, I draped it over my table, and as you can see, I had folded it. I figured that would be the easiest way for me to measure what length I needed. So I have all the excess draped off to one side, and then I take my scissors and trim off the excess. I trimmed off this excess edge as well. It has just the little symbols and the cotton symbol. I didn't need that part. And then I am also left with this remnant here, which we will be doing something with. So I threw it back into the wash, all of that fabric, and in the dryer because I wanted to create a frayed edge. And I thought this would be the perfect way to achieve that. And it worked really well. So it loosened up a bunch of the excess thread. And as you can see, there is a lot of fraying here, but I really wanted to go for a rustic, country, casual look for my table for this fall or Thanksgiving. And I thought this would be a really fun project to try out. So I trimmed off all that loose thread and it revealed this beautiful fringe. And then to prevent it from fraying any further, I did a basic straight stitch using my sewing machine and a really tight stitch line. I just did a straight stitch, and you guys, I am not good at sewing, I'll tell you that right now, but I did manage to accomplish exactly what I needed. I just did the two ends. I didn't do the long side. I knew that those ends or the sides would not fray. Next, you want to make sure you iron it, and then you can lay it out on your table to make sure it fits. So for this next part, I received this linen table runner. It's beautiful. It's already got the frayed edge, but it was too long for my table. So same thing, I just draped it over. I put it over the tablecloth and I matched up the end of the table runner on one side with my tablecloth, just as you see right here. And then over on the other side, I allowed the excess to pull up on the chair. And then that allowed me to create a cut line so I knew exactly where to cut it. Then I created a crease just by folding it at the cut line. And then you can just go in and remove the excess threading to create, again, a frayed edge. Now, Burlap Fabric has got a ton of products. You'll definitely want to check it out if you are in the market for some trims or fabrics of all different kinds. So once you've got your table runner all ironed, you can place it on top of your table. And now I am going to start to create all the accessories that I need for my tablescape. I wanted to create some primitive farmhouse style mini pumpkins, so I am just using some plates and I'm tracing it over top of this excess fabric. It's the green ticking fabric. The green ticking fabric was placed upside down, and I did a total of 3 circles and I did a couple of different sizes. You won't see the pencil line once you're finished, as that's going to be on the inside of our pumpkin. So once you've got your templates all traced out, you can then take your scissors and cut your circles out. So here they are, all ready to go. I wanted to create that really grungy primitive look. I just love that look. And I knew the best way to do that was to coffee dye my fabric. Now you can skip this step if you don't like that look, that's completely fine. But I love it, so I thought I'd just give it a whirl and see how well this fabric takes to the dye. So I just used some instant coffee that I picked up from Dollar Tree, mixed it with some boiling water. It was about 2 tablespoons or so with about 1 cup of water. So now I'm just going to soak my fabric rounds in the coffee solution. And then as you can see, I've got a cookie sheet here, and I'm going to be laying those pieces out flat onto the cookie sheet. burlettefabric.com has a $5 off on any purchase that's $5 or more for you. I've got the code linked down in the description box for you, as well as pinned in the comments section. That code doesn't expire until February 23rd of 2023, so you can stock up on your supplies for Christmas. All right, so my fabrics are all ready to go. I like to dry them in the oven, but you can let them air dry. In the oven, they create a really interesting texture, as you can see. I think it gives it a really grungy look. The one didn't have enough staining on one side, so I added some more coffee, put it back in the oven, and you can see the texture that it created right here. You can see how unique each of these fabric rounds is. I just love that. I think it's so cool. So they did get rather stiff, so I just like to crumple them up in my hands. That way it makes it so it's a lot more pliable and easier to use. Of course, if you didn't dye your fabric, you won't have to do this step. Okay, so for this next step, you're gonna need some crochet thread as well as a tapestry needle. Mine's blunt on one end and the hole is big enough that I can thread this string through the eye. You'll just want to trim off a long strand and then of course put it onto your needle. And then I always like to tie a knot on one end that will prevent the thread from pulling through your fabric. So I'm going to be doing a running stitch. It's a very basic stitch here. I'm going to go all the way around the edge of our fabric. So I always like to start my stitching on the inside, and I always like to finish it off on the inside. That way here, when you do go to tie it up, the knot will be on the inside of the pouch. So once you reach all the way around, you can just kind of straighten everything up a bit, but you want to leave your pouch open. Now this is something I like to do. I like to add a few pebbles to the bottom. You could use something else if you prefer, but this is what I like to use. That just provides just a little bit of weight so it sits nicely on the surface that you choose. You're gonna want to fill it up with some fiberfill. I'm just using some pillows that I have picked up from Walmart. They're $4 or $5. It's a cheap way of getting some fiberfill. You want to fill that up and then pull your strings tight. So you want to make sure the hole is left open just slightly, and then you want to tie that off. I always like to do a triple knot. All right, so now it's time to start decorating our little pumpkin. I have these branches that I had picked up from the dollar store. You can pick them from the forest as well. Just some random leaves that I had in my stash, and I'm gonna be using some Spanish moss. I got this idea from Country Charm by Tracy here on YouTube. Thank you for this idea, Tracy. I love the look. It's perfect for that primitive country look that I like. So I just want to make sure that my stem is going to fit in the hole of my pumpkin, and then I'm going to add some glue and press the stem down into place in the middle of this little poof. Next, I'm going to add my leaves. Now I have two sizes here, and these are actually left over from faux florals that I had in my stash. I keep stuff like this because I use them a lot for projects like this. It's just a great way to repurpose these little leaves. So I just trim them down, and then I'm going to glue them into place. And as you can see, I'm using two different sizes just for some interest to the piece. All right, so now I'm going to add that Spanish moss that Tracy uses in her projects. So I'm just adding some glue at the base of the stem, and I'm going to wrap the Spanish moss around it. I figured this would be a great alternative to tendrils that you would find on pumpkins. I think it looks really, really neat. Just want to trim down the excess, and then I decided to add just a few pieces of the Spanish moss underneath the leaves. But of course, this is optional. You could even add some florals, pine cones, whatever you like to decorate your pumpkins. All right, so here is some trim that's linen and cotton, again from burlapfabric.com, as well as this burlap trim. Just beautiful things. I got these Dollar Tree battery operated lights, and I'm going to create a band to wrap around the middle of each of these lights, or each of these candles. I'm just going to trim it down to size and then add just a bead of glue and then just press the two ends into place. So I like to be able to reuse these candles, so I didn't glue directly onto the candle. All right, so for that nature touch that I always love to add to my projects, I decided to dig out my stash of branches, and I'm going to add them all the way around this candle. I think it'll create a really beautiful rustic country look. And I'm just adding these branches by putting hot glue directly onto the burlap trim, and then just press them into place and hold them there until the glue sets. I like to trim off the base as I go along, and then you can see how beautiful that looks, but I still have some blank spaces, so I'm just going in and adding a few extra branches here and there, and that also adds to the texture of the piece as well. All right, so I'm going to use this beautiful green trim. It's gorgeous. I just wrapped a piece around, and I'm just going to tie a simple knot. You could do a bow if you prefer, but I just like the simple look of the knot. I'm going to tie that off, and then I am going to trim the ends by creating a dovetail. So for this next one, I'm doing something different. I have not seen this done before. I went and collected some grasses from my front yard, and just like with the branches, I'm going to glue these grasses all the way around the candle. So I'm just adding a tiny bead of the glue. I don't want too much because these grasses are delicate. You want to press it into place. I'm also going to be using the bottom part of the stem of these grasses, and I'll just go all the way around. I don't create a super full look. I just wanted it to look light and airy and wispy, and so I just went ahead and just continued to add it. You can add anything you want to these candles. I have done this with birch bark, with feathers, even with dried florals. Okay, I have to say, I think this looks pretty cool. So if you have any loose pieces, go ahead and add just a tiny bit more glue and press those pieces into place. The burlap might slip up on your candle a little bit. You can just push it down into place, and then again, trim off the bottom. Now I'm going to be using this cream colored trim. Again, it's the linen and cotton. I'm gonna just wrap it around again and just do that simple basic knot and the dovetail trim on the ends. Okay, so I decided that I just want to keep these next couple of candles really basic. So I'm just going to wrap this one with the green, and then I do one with the cream, and just do the basic knot, just like you see right here. Again, if you choose, you can definitely do a bow. All right, so now it's time to gather up all your other supplies. I'm using some burlap leaves I got from Dollar Tree, these napkins from Superstore, some sheet music that I had in my stash, these beautiful fabric pumpkins that we created, as well as these primitive candles that I had made a while back. I'll have the link for you down in the description and pinned in the comments. So I have my fabrics layered on the table already. And now I'm going to be using this wood platform that I had bought recently. I'm going to just start to layer my pieces in. I've got amber glass that are filled with grasses and branches and all the different candles that we had decorated. And then I am also going to just tuck the fabric pumpkins in here and there as well. So I know not everybody's going to have a wood platform like this, so I'm going to be sharing another option on how you can decorate your table as well. So I just felt like something was missing, so that is why I decided to use these burlap leaves. I just felt like all these pieces needed a base to sit on besides just the wood platform that I have here. So I'm just picking the items up, as you can see, and I'm just tucking them in underneath. Of course, you can use anything that you have in your stash. So I've done this before. I've used sheet music as a placemat. I always thought it was something fun to do. Just using my basic white dishes and some wine glasses that I had. And for the napkin, I'm just folding it in half and placing it on top of the plate. I love the pattern that it has, but of course, use any napkins that you have. So for another added touch, I just have a piece of grass that I had picked from the front yard and put it on top. I love that look. I think that everything that came together here is fairly simple and so rustic and primitive looking, and definitely has that fall vibe that I was going for. So I'm going to show you the second option. I had a remnant of the table runner and I thought it would be really cool just to use that as a simple centerpiece. I decided that I wanted to create this fall stamp pattern. So use any fall stamps that you have in your stash. And I'm going to be using this archival ink in the potting soil cover. Potting soil color. So the archival ink is a permanent ink, so this will be washable. So I'm just going to stamp the pattern along the edge. Love how that looks. It's not perfect, but that is exactly what I was going for. I think if you just randomly place it and if it isn't a perfect imprint, it just has that real rustic look. So this is permanent ink, so you want to make sure you protect your surface while you are working. Isn't this beautiful? I love how that turned out. So again, now we can start to layer all our pieces onto the table. I've decided that I am going to use some branches by just laying them out down the center. This is something I absolutely love to do. I go foraging or collect things on my walks. I had this leaf garland in my stash. I'm going to lay that out, and then I'm going to just lift and tuck the branches in throughout the garland. I got this particular garland at Dollarama here in Canada, but of course feel free to use anything from any of your local stores. All right, so now we're just going to start to add all those decorative elements. Again, we've got the vases and the candles with the grasses and the branches and all those other candles that we had created. Just layering things and adding things like this is so easy to do to create a beautiful Thanksgiving or fall table centerpiece. I have to say, I really like this look as well. They both turned out beautiful. I'm going to show you what they look like in the dark. Here, the night is starting to fall and it just has such a warm and cozy feeling to it. I am really enjoying this look. This has got such a nice warm glow in the evening. So cozy, perfect for those chilly evenings in the fall. As always, I would absolutely love to know what your favorite part of this project was by leaving me a comment below. And don't forget to check out burlap.com. I've got that link as well as a coupon code for you listed in the description box and pinned in the comments. I want to thank all of you for being here today, and I want to say a special happy Thanksgiving to all my Canadian friends coming up here next weekend. We'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.